Hey guys, tonight we begin not with a Shakespearean tragedy or a medieval throne room, but with something far more relatable and devastating. A father dividing his fortune based on who flatters him the most. Because, believe it or not, the music industry of the 1960s with its backstage betrayals, power plays, and family dynasties was the perfect stage for one of literature's oldest warnings about pride and poor judgment. From London recording studios to Manhattan penthouses, this tale of Leon King is less about rock and roll glory and more about how easily empires crumble when ego drowns out truth. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy these kinds of stories. And let me know in the comments where you're re-listening from and what time it is for you right now. I always love seeing who's drifting off with us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe adjust your pillow, let the weight of the day fall away, and let's journey together through the rise and fall of a kingdom built on sound. The year is 1966, and London pulses with a new kind of electricity. Not the kind that powers the city's ancient street lamps, but something wilder. Something that screams from basement clubs and reverberates through the narrow alleys of Soho. This is the sound that changed the world. And at its epicenter stands one man, Leon King. Leon King is not royalty by birth, but by conquest. 20 years ago, he was no Bardia session guitarist with calloused fingers and a vision that burned brighter than the spotlights. At the Marquee Club, he built Kingdom Records from nothing. From late nights in cramped recording studios and handshake deals with pub owners who barely understood what rock and roll meant, now his label is an empire. The Beatles may have conquered America, but Leon King discovered half the bands that followed in their wake. His instinct for talent is legendary. His roster reads like a history of modern music. Blues rock bands with names that sound like magic spells. Folk singers turned electric prophets. Psychedelic experimenters who paint with sound. But Leon King is tired. At 63, the grind has worn him down. The endless cycle of tours, recording sessions, contract negotiations, and the weight of keeping a dozen volatile artists from self-destructing it's become too much. His hair, once dark as vinyl, has gone silver grey. His face, weathered by decades of cigarette smoke and whiskey-soaked nights in jazz clubs, shows every battle fought and won. He walks with a slight limp now, a souvenir from a bar brawl in Hamburg back when the music was still raw and dangerous. Tonight, Leon has summoned everyone who matters to the Kingdom Records headquarters converted warehouse in Camden that still smells faintly of the textile factory it once was. The building is a cathedral to sound, 3 floors of studios, offices papered with gold records, and a massive penthouse where Leon holds court. The walls are covered in photographs. Leon with Muddy Waters, Leon at the Cavern Club, Leon shaking hands with suited executives who never quite understood what they were selling. His 3 daughters arrive separately, each entrance a statement of character. Gwendolyn King arrives first, immaculate in a tailored mod dress, her dark hair styled in a perfect geometric bob. At 32, she's the eldest, and she's built herself into Leon's mirror image, ruthless, calculating, brilliant at reading the market. She runs the American operations from a Manhattan office where she's turned Kingdom Records into a money machine. She understands that music is product, and product must sell. She kisses her father's weathered cheek with practiced affection and takes her place at the long table, her fingers drumming impatiently on the polished wood. Regan King sweeps in next, trailing patchouli oil and attitude. At 29, she's carved out her own territory, managing Kingdom's London roster. Where Gwendolyn is all sharp angles and business acumen, Regan is curves and calculated charm. She dresses like the rock wives, she mingles with velvet and fringe, kohl-lined eyes, bangles that jangle with every theatrical gesture. She's learned to manipulate the artists, to make them feel understood while extracting every ounce of commercial potential. She embraces Leon with exaggerated warmth, her voice honey-sweet. "Daddy, you look exhausted. This business will kill you if you don't let us help." Cordelia King is last, and her entrance is quiet rebellion. At 23, she's the baby, the one who grew up backstage, who learned guitar from blues legends and fell in love with music for its own sake, not its market value. She wears jeans and a simple paisley blouse, her light brown hair loose and where her sisters caught the commercial side. Cordelia haunts recording studios, producing sessions for experimental artists who'll never chart but might change music forever. She's her father's daughter in a different way. She inherited his ear, his instinct, but also his stubborn integrity. She nods to Leon, her expression unreadable. The room fills with others. Harry Kent, Leon's oldest friend, and the label's head of A&R, a bear of a man in a rumpled suit who discovered half their roster. Mickey, the press agent, a former music hall comedian who became Leon's confidant and unofficial jester, always armed with a quip and devastating insight. And various managers, producers, and hangers-on who've attached themselves to the Kingdom Empire. Leon rises slowly, leaning on the edge of the table. The room falls silent. Even the traffic noise from Camden Road seems to quiet in anticipation. "I built this with nothing but stubbornness and an ear for what matters," Leon begins, his voice gravelly from decades of shouting over amplifiers. "Kingdom Records is my life's work. Every band we've signed, every record we've pressed, every tour we've booked, it's all been my blood and sweat. But I'm tired. Tired of the business, tired of watching artists destroy themselves, tired of fighting with distributors and radio programmers and all the vultures who want to pick at what we've built." He pauses, letting the weight of his words settle over the room like dust. "So I'm dividing it up. Tonight, the American operations, the London headquarters, the publishing rights, the recording studios, all of it. I'm splitting Kingdom Records 3 ways among my daughters, and then I'm done. I'll keep a small entourage, maybe travel with one of you, but the empire is yours." The announcement hangs in the air like feedback before it resolves into a chord. Gwendolyn's eyes glitter with calculated interest. Regan leans forward, her bangles singing. Cordelia's expression remains carefully neutral, though something flickers behind her eyes, concern, perhaps, or premonition. Mickey, the press agent, breaks the silence with nervous laughter. "Christ, Leon, you trying to give us all heart attacks? You're not dying, are you?" Leon waves him off. "I'm not dying, I'm living. For the first time in 20 years, I'm going to live without this weight on my shoulders." He pulls out a leather portfolio, spreading papers across the table like a dealer laying out cards. "But before we make it official, before the lawyers put their stamps on everything, I want to hear it from you. My girls, tell me what Kingdom Records means to you. Tell me why you deserve this legacy. It's a test." Though whether Leon knows how cruel a test it is remains unclear. Perhaps he simply wants validation, the confirmation that his life's work matters, that his daughters understand the magnitude of what he's built. Or perhaps, in his exhaustion, he's become vain, needing to hear his own importance reflected back to him. Gwendolyn doesn't hesitate. She stands, smoothing her dress, and her voice carries the practiced confidence of 100 boardroom presentations. "Daddy, you know I love you more than words can express. Kingdom Records isn't just a business to meet your genius made manifest. When I'm in New York, negotiating with Columbia or Capitol, I'm carrying your vision across the Atlantic. Every deal I close, every chart position we capture, it's all for you. I love you more than my own ambitions, more than money, more than the air I breathe. Give me the American operations, and I'll double the revenue within 2 years. I'll make Kingdom Records the most powerful label in the world, and every success will be a tribute to you. Leon's weathered face softens. He nods slowly, clearly moved by the declaration. Well said, Gwendolyn. Well said. The American division is yours. New York, Los Angeles, the whole operation. You'll have the masters to everything we've released stateside. Plus, full signing authority for new acts. Gwendolyn smiles, a precise expression that doesn't quite reach her eyes, and sits down with the satisfaction of someone who's just won a negotiation. Leon turns to his middle daughter. Regan, what about you, love? What does kingdom mean to you? Regan rises with fluid grace, moving closer to her father, placing her hand over his. Her voice is warm, intimate, pitched for emotional resonance. Oh, Daddy. Gwendolyn spoke beautifully, but she barely scratched the surface. You're not just my father, you're my inspiration, my guiding light. When I work with the bands, when I'm managing tours and holding these fragile artist egos together, I'm channeling everything you taught me. You showed me that music can change the world, and I've dedicated my entire life to protecting that vision. I love you more than Gwendolyn could possibly understand. You're my entire world. The London office isn't just business to me. It's sacred ground where you started this revolution. Trust me with it, and I'll nurture every artist like their family. I'll keep the spirit of Kingdom Records pure while expanding our reach across Europe. Everything I do will honor you. Leon's eyes actually glisten. He grips Regan's hand. That's my girl. The London headquarters, the European distribution, the studios here in Camden and Abbey Road, it's all yours. You'll be the heart of Kingdom Records, right where it all began. Regan embraces him, shooting a triumphant glance at Gwendolyn before returning to her seat. The two sisters have always competed for their father's approval, and tonight that competition has become an auction of affection. Now Leon turns to Cordelia, his youngest, and something in his expression shifts. There's a softness there, a vulnerability. She's always been his favorite, though he's tried not to show it. She reminds him of himself at her age, uncompromising, passionate about the music itself rather than the machinery around it. Cordelia, my baby girl, you've been quiet tonight. Tell me what I mean to you. What does Kingdom Records mean to you? Cordelia looks at her father, then at her sisters, their faces flushed with victory and greed. She opens her mouth, closes it, then speaks quietly. I love you according to my bond as your daughter. Nothing more, nothing less. The room freezes. Mickey lets out a low whistle. Harry Kent closes his eyes, recognizing disaster. Leon's face darkens. What did you say? Cordelia's voice remains steady, though there's pain underneath. I love you as a daughter should love her father. You raised me, taught me everything I know about music, and I'm grateful. But I won't play this game, Daddy. Gwen and Regan just stood here and performed for your pretty speeches, full of empty superlatives. When I marry someday, my husband will get half my love and devotion. That's how it works. I can't claim you're my entire universe. It wouldn't be honest. Leon's voice rises, anger flooding in where affection stood moments before. You think honesty is giving me nothing when your sisters gave me everything. They gave you nothing but words, Cordelia says, her own voice hardening, flattery designed to manipulate. I'm giving you the truth. The word truth detonates in the room like a microphone dropped at full volume. Leon's face transforms, weathered features contorting with a rage that seems to rise from somewhere deep and ancient. His hands shake as he slams them against the table, making the contracts jump. Truth. You ungrateful child. I give you everything a chance to inherit a empire men would kill for, and you give me arithmetic, a daughter's bond. His voice cracks, raw with betrayal. Your sisters know what I've built. They understand the weight of this legacy. But you, my favorite, the one I trusted to really understand the music, you throw it back in my face with nothing more, nothing less. Cordelia stands her ground, though her hands tremble slightly. Daddy, please, I'm not ungrateful. I just won't lie to you like they did lie. Leon whirls toward Goneril and Regan, who sit watching with carefully maintained expressions of shock and hurt. They showed love. They showed loyalty. You show me contempt. Harry Kent rises from his seat, his massive frame unfolding slowly. Leon, wait. Just wait a minute, mate. Cordelia's speaking sense. She's the only one who shut your mouth, Harry. Leon doesn't even look at him, his eyes locked on Cordelia. You want honesty, girl? Here's honesty. You get nothing. Not a single recording studio, not one publishing right, not a penny of royalties. The whole empire splits between your sisters. You're out. The room erupts in murmurs. Mickey jumps to his feet. Leon, you can't be serious. Cordelia's got the best ear of all three. I said nothing. Leon roars, and the room falls silent. She wants to pass out her love in fractions. Fine. Here's her fraction. 0. Gwendolyn, Regan Kingdom Records, is yours. Split it down the middle. All of it. Gwendolyn and Regan exchange glances, surprise giving way to barely concealed satisfaction. The pie just got bigger. Harry Kent moves around the table, his voice low and urgent. Leon, listen to yourself. I've known you for 23 years. We've built this label from nothing, remember? Playing backup for Gene Vincent, sleeping in the van, dreaming about the future. This isn't you talking, it's pride and exhaustion. Cordelia's the only one who didn't try to con you. She's the only one who loves music the way you do, for itself, not for what it can buy. Leon turns on his oldest friend, and the temperature in the room plummets. You dare question my judgment? In front of everyone. You forget your place, Harry. My place. Harry's face reddens. My place is telling you when you're being a bloody fool. That girl is the best thing you ever produced, and you're throwing her away because she won't stroke your ego. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Get out. Leon's voice is cold now, deadly calm. You're done at Kingdom Records. Clear out your office. Take your reputation and your opinions and get out of my sight. The room goes silent. Harry Kent has been with Kingdom Records since the beginning. He discovered their biggest acts, negotiated their first distribution deals, stood by Leon through scandals and near bankruptcies. Firing him is like amputating a limb. Harry stares at Leon for a long moment, and something profound breaks between them. Right? 23 years of friendship, up in smoke because I told you the truth. He pulls off his tie, drops it on the table. You're going to regret this, Leon. Mark my words. Those two vultures will pick you clean, and when they do, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that Cordelia loved you enough to be honest. He walks toward the door, then stops beside Cordelia. Come on, love. There's other labels in this city. Better ones. Cordelia follows, her face pale but composed. At the doorway, she turns back. Daddy, I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but you won't find it in those contracts. The heavy door closes behind them with a finality that echoes through the warehouse space. Mickey breaks the silence. his comedian's voice gone serious. Leon, mate, I think you should. One more word, and you follow them. Leon collapses into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 63 years. It's done. Goneril, Regan gets the lawyers in here. We're signing tonight. The two sisters move with practiced efficiency, already discussing territories and assets in hushed voices. The kingdom is divided. The empire splits like a band after a bad tour, and nobody notices the hairline cracks that will eventually bring the whole structure crashing down. Outside in the Camden night, Harry Kent lights a cigarette and offers one to Cordelia. The sound of traffic on Camden Road provides a steady rhythm, the pulse of London continuing despite personal tragedies. Above them, the converted warehouse that houses Kingdom Records glows with light. But it feels hollow now, a shell of what it was just an hour ago. What now? Cordelia asks quietly. Harry draws deep on his cigarette, exhaling smoke into the cool London air. Now we start over. Your father taught us both how to build something from nothing. Maybe it's time we remembered those lessons. He looks up at the warehouse, at the empire they're leaving behind, and we watch. We watch and wait, because those two sisters of yours, they'll tear it all apart. It's just a matter of time. Somewhere in the building above, contracts are being signed, an empire divided, a family fractured. The music plays on, oblivious to the human drama, spinning on turntables and radiating from speakers across the city. But the kingdom that made that music possible has just planted the seeds of its own destruction, and neither Goneril nor Regan has any idea what they've truly inherited. Not an empire, a curse. 3 weeks pass, and London slides deeper into autumn. The leaves along Carnaby Street turn gold and copper, falling like discarded guitar picks onto rain-slicked pavements. The music scene pulses on, the clubs still throb with sound. The recording studios still capture lightning in magnetic tape, but something fundamental has shifted. In the kingdom Leon King built, Leon has taken up residence in Gwendolyn's Manhattan penthouse, a sterile glass and steel tower on the Upper East Side that overlooks Central Park. The apartment is all clean lines and modern art, nothing like the cluttered warmth of his Camden warehouse. Here, everything is calculated for effect. The Danish furniture, the abstract paintings chosen by a decorator, the view that announces success to anyone who sees it. Leon feels like a museum piece himself, displayed in his daughter's gallery of achievements. He arrived with his entourage, dozen people he considered essential. Mickey, the press agent, ever armed with quips and cigarettes, his personal assistant, a quiet woman named Alice, who's managed his chaos for 15 years. To young A&R scouts he's been mentoring, a driver, his longtime secretary, various others who've attached themselves to Leon's orbit over the years. People he's promised to support, to keep employed, to protect from the industry's casual cruelty. Gwendolyn tolerates them for exactly 9 days. On the 10th morning, Leon finds her in the penthouse's sleek kitchen, her hair pulled back severe, already dressed for business at 7 a.m. She's reviewing papers, her coffee untouched and cooling beside her. The city sprawls below, indifferent and infinite. "Daddy, we need to talk about your people," she says, without preamble, not looking up from her documents. Leon shuffles in, still in his robe, burgundy silk, a relic from better days. Mickey trails behind him, already smoking despite the early hour. What about them? They're costing a fortune. Gwendolyn finally looks up, her expression neutral, professional. The hotel suites, the meals, the cars, it's excessive. You don't need a dozen hangers-on. This is New York, not some rock and roll circus. They're not hangers-on, Leon says. his voice still rough with sleep. "Their family, they've been with me for years. They're employees, Daddy, and they're redundant now. You're retired, remember? You don't need A&R scouts. You don't need a driver. I have 3 drivers on call. You certainly don't need that secretary when my entire office is at your disposal," Mickey interjects with forced lightness. "Come on, Gwen, love. Your old man built an empire. Let him keep a few courtiers, eh? Kings need their court." Gwendolyn's gaze shifts to Mickey, cold and assessing. "And does a king need a court jester? Especially one who hasn't been funny since vaudeville died?" The words land like a slap. Mickey's perpetual grin falters for just a moment before he recovers. Ouch! The daughter's got her father's sharp edges, doesn't she? "Half of them need to go," Gwendolyn continues, returning her attention to Leon. "Keep Mickey if you must, and Alice. The rest can find employment elsewhere. Regan's already complained about the expense, and we're splitting your upkeep 50-50, remember?" Leon feels something cold settle in his chest. "You're complaining about money, you who just inherited half of Kingdom Records." "I inherited half of a business, Daddy, not a charity for washed-up music industry personnel." Gwendolyn's voice remains even, reasonable, which somehow makes it worse. "The American division needs to be lean and profitable. Every unnecessary expense gets cut. That's how you built this empire in the first place, ruthless efficiency." "I built it with loyalty," Leon says, his voice rising, "with people I could trust. People who believed in the music. And now it's mine to manage as I see fit." Gwendolyn stands, gathering her papers. "I'm not being cruel, Daddy. I'm being practical. You're welcome here, you know that. You're my father, and I love you. But I won't subsidize a traveling circus of nostalgia." She leaves for the office, her heels clicking against the hardwood with metronomic precision. The door closes with a whisper of expensive engineering, and Leon stands in the antiseptic kitchen feeling suddenly, profoundly lost. Mickey lights another cigarette from the butt of his first. Well, that was bracing, wasn't it? Nothing like being called obsolete before breakfast. Leon moves to the window, looking out at Central Park, where early morning joggers trace paths through the fallen leaves. She's right, isn't she? I am retired. I don't need them, or can't stand having them around because they remind you of who you used to be. Mickey's voice has lost its performative cheer. This is the real Mickey, the one who sees through everyone's act because he's performed his whole life. She's cutting you down to size, Leon, piece by piece. First your people, then what? Your dignity, your self-respect. She's my daughter. So was Cordelia. The name hangs between them like cigarette smoke. Leon hasn't spoken to his youngest daughter since that night in Camden. He has heard through the grapevine that she and Harry Kent have been consulting for some of the smaller labels, producing sessions for experimental acts, doing exactly what they love without the weight of empire. He tells himself he doesn't care. He tells himself she betrayed him. He doesn't examine why that feels like a lie. By the end of the week, 8 of Leon's 12 companions have been dismissed. Gwendolyn handles it with corporate efficiency severance packages, neutral recommendations, the careful machinery of professional discard. They leave one by one, some angry, some resigned, all of them looking at Leon like he's already a ghost. Alice, his secretary, is the last to go. She's been with him since the early days, typed every contract, scheduled every session. She hugs him in the lobby of Gwendolyn's building, her eyes wet. "You call me if you need anything, Mr. King, anything at all." Leon nods, unable to speak. When she's gone, when the elevator doors close and he's left alone in the marble lobby with just Mickey beside him. He feels the empire he built receding like a tide, leaving him stranded on a shore he doesn't recognize. While Leon navigates his diminishment in New York, another drama unfolds across the Atlantic. Edgar Gloucester runs Kingdom Records' publishing division, a quiet empire within the empire built on songwriter royalties and licensing deals. Edgar is Leon's contemporary, a meticulous man who built his fortune one copyright at a time. Understanding that the real money in music isn't in the performance but in who owns the composition itself, he has two sons, and the contrast between them couldn't be more stark. Edmund Gloucester is the elder son, but only technically. He was born out of wedlock during Edgar's wild youth, the product of a brief affair with a backup singer in 1945. Edgar acknowledged him, gave him his name, but never quite gave him legitimacy in the ways that matter. Edmund grew up on the margins of the music industry, watching from the sidelines, always aware he was tolerated rather than embraced. Now 38, he works in Kingdom's legal department, brilliant with contracts but forever reminded of his irregular origins by snide comments and careful exclusions from the inner circle. Edwin Gloucester, the legitimate son, is everything Edmund isn't, born to Edgar's proper marriage, educated at Cambridge, charming and handsome and utterly secure in his place in the world. At 34, he manages Kingdom's most prestigious artists with effortless grace. Edgar dotes on Edwin, speaks of him taking over the publishing empire, never noticing how Edmund's jaw tightens when the future is discussed, as if only one son exists. Edmund has watched the King family drama with intense interest. He's seen how ambition and flattery won the day, how honesty got Cordelia exiled and Harry Kent fired. He's learned the lesson Leon taught, even if Leon himself doesn't realize he taught it. Truth is weakness, and performance is power. In his cramped office in the Kingdom Records building, Edmund composes a letter. The handwriting isn't his own. He's practiced Edwin's loose, confident scrawl for weeks. The content is devastating in its simplicity. Father's publishing division should be ours by right, not by his whim. The old guard, Leon, your father, all of them, they're finished. New management means new opportunities. When Goneril and Regan consolidate power, we should position ourselves to take control of publishing. Age is vulnerability. Perhaps it's time to consider how vulnerable father really is. We could contest his control, argue diminished capacity. The Americans would back us if it meant securing their interests. Think about it, brother. The future belongs to us, not to them. Edmund folds the letter carefully, leaving it partially visible on his desk. Then he calls his father with urgent concern in his voice. Dad, could you come to the office? Something's happened. Something with Edwin. I'd rather not discuss it over the phone. Edgar Gloucester arrives within the hour, his distinguished face creased with worry. Edmund plays his scene perfectly, reluctance, discomfort, filial loyalty warring with moral duty. He shows his father the letter as if it pains him. I found this in Edwin's briefcase, Edmund says, his voice heavy with false regret. He left it at my flat last night after drinks. I wasn't snooping, I swear. It just fell out when I was looking for a pen, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. Edgar takes the letter with shaking hands. His face drains of color as he reads. This is Edwin's handwriting. I know. Edmund's performance is flawless. The loyal son devastated by his brother's betrayal. I didn't want to believe it either. Edwin's always been the good son, the favorite. But father, after what happened with Leon and Cordelia, I think the power grab is spreading. Everyone sees weakness now. Everyone's circling. Edgar collapses into a chair, the letter still clutched in his hands. He wants to declare me incompetent. take the publishing division by force. I don't know what to do, Edmund says. He's my brother, but you're my father, and this is betrayal. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's an explanation. I could sound him out. See if he's really serious. No. Edgar's voice hardens, the softness of shock giving way to hurt and anger. If he approaches you, play along. Pretend you're interested. I need to know how deep this conspiracy goes. Edmund nods solemnly, hiding his satisfaction. The seed is planted, and paranoia will do the rest. Edgar will turn on Edwin, the favored son will fall, and Edmund loyal, illegitimate Edmund will be there to catch what drops. Back in New York, Leon discovers that Gwendolyn's hospitality has further conditions. At dinner catered affair in the penthouse, just the two of them, and Mickey slides a document across the marble table. What's this? Leon asks, not reaching for it. A transfer agreement. For your personal catalogue, the songs you wrote, the performances you own outright. They should be folded into Kingdom's publishing division for tax efficiency and estate planning. Leon finally picks up the papers, scanning them. You want me to sign over my copyrights? The songs I wrote? Not sign them over, consolidate them, for your own benefit. The accounting gets complicated when your personal royalties are separate from Kingdom's corporate structure. This simplifies everything. Mickey leans over, reading upside down. This is a complete transfer of ownership, Leon. You'd own nothing. You'd be on salary from your own bloody songs. Gwendolyn's smile is patient, patronizing. Mickey, you don't understand corporate structures. Daddy would receive generous quarterly payments, fully indexed to market rates. Indexed to what you decide market rates are, Mickey interrupts. You're asking him to hand over the last thing he actually owns. I'm offering efficient management of his legacy. Gwendolyn's voice cools. But if you'd rather continue with the complicated current arrangement, losing 30% to unnecessary tax burden, that's your choice. Daddy, I'm trying to help. Leon stares at the document, at his daughter's carefully neutral expression, and feels the walls of the glass tower pressing in. Everything is slipping away: his people, his autonomy. His identity dissolving like morning mist under Gwendolyn's efficient, inexorable management. I need to think about it, he says finally. Of course. Gwendolyn retrieves the document. Think about it. But remember, Daddy, I'm doing this out of love. Everything I do is to protect your legacy. The word love sounds strange in her mouth. Corporate and cold. Nothing like what Leon remembers love being in the early days, when love meant sleeping in vans and sharing dreams and building something from nothing but passion and stubbornness. That night, Leon can't sleep. He stands at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city sparkle below like a circuit board, and wonders when his daughter became a stranger. Wonders when he became so small. The call comes from London 3 days later. Regan's voice crackles across the transatlantic line, warm and concerned. Daddy, I've been hearing things, troubling things, about how Gwendolyn's treating you. Leon sits in what Gwendolyn calls his room, a guest bedroom decorated in impersonal beige, the kind of space that looks expensive but feels like a hotel. Mickey sprawls in the single chair, pretending not to listen while obviously listening to every word. What have you heard? Leon asks, suspicious of comfort from this particular daughter. That she's dismissed your people. That she's making you sign papers, controlling your every move. Daddy, that's not right. You're Leon King. You built this empire. You shouldn't be living like a prisoner in your own daughter's apartment. The words find their mark, because they're true. Leon has felt it building, the subtle infantilization. The way Gwendolyn speaks to him like he's losing his faculties. The careful management of his time and space and remaining dignity. Come to London, Regan continues, her voice honey-sweet. Stay with me and Marcus at our place in Belgravia. You'll love it proper British elegance, not this American corporate sterility. And I'll treat you the way you deserve, Daddy. Like the legend you are. Bring whoever you want. I'm not like Gwendolyn, counting pennies and measuring affection in spreadsheet columns. Leon looks around the beige room, feels the weight of Gwendolyn's efficient disapproval pressing down like Manhattan's humidity in August. Maybe I will. Maybe that's what I need to go home. Yes, Regan's enthusiasm sounds genuine. Come home, Daddy. Come home where people remember what you built, where the music still matters more than the margins. The decision is made almost before Leon realizes he's making it. Within 2 days, he and Mickey are on a boat flight back to London, leaving behind Gwendolyn's pristine tower and her carefully structured control. Gwendolyn sees them off with cool civility, already mentally reallocating the space they occupied, relieved to have the complication of her father removed from her streamlined existence. London welcomes them with grey October skies and the smell of rain on pavement. Regan's Belgravia townhouse is everything she promised: a 4-story Victorian jewel box with high ceilings, crown moulding, and walls covered in rock and roll memorabilia mixed with genuine art. Her husband Marcus is there, a smooth operator who made his fortune managing touring logistics. He greets Leon with practiced warmth, calls him the legend and the king, and makes sure Leon's favorite whiskey is always within reach. For the first week, it's perfect. Regan dotes on Leon, takes him to recording sessions, introduces him to the new acts she's signing: psychedelic bands with names like Kaleidoscope Mind and the Electric Prophets. She throws dinner parties where aging rockers and young upstarts gather to pay homage, to hear Leon's stories about the early days, to bask in proximity to history. Leon feels himself again, feels relevant, feels like the kingdom he built still acknowledges its king. But the second week, subtle changes begin. Regan mentions, casually over breakfast, that Mickey's presence is making Marcus uncomfortable. He's always lurking, Daddy, making these cryptic comments. Marcus finds it unsettling in our home. Mickey's my friend, Leon says, but there's less certainty in his voice now. The pattern from New York is repeating, and he can feel the ground shifting beneath him. Of course he is, Regan soothes, but maybe he could stay at a hotel, just nearby. We'd pay for it. Naturally, you'd still see him every day. But Marcus and I do need some privacy in our own home. You understand, don't you? Leon understands. He understands that he's being diminished again, reduced piece by piece. But he's tired of fighting, tired of being the problem, so he agrees. Mickey moves to a small hotel in Soho, and though he still visits daily, something is lost: the casual companionship, the late-night talks, the presence of someone who remembers who Leon was before he became a burden. Meanwhile, the Edmund Gloucester situation reaches its crisis. Edgar, poisoned by the forged letter, has turned cold toward Edwin, the favored son. Confused and hurt by his father's sudden hostility, makes the mistake of confronting Edmund about it. Have you said something to father? Edwin asks in the Kingdom Records hallway, his usually confident voice edged with desperation. He won't speak to me. He cancelled our lunch. When I went to his office, he practically threw me out. Edmund performs concern beautifully. He asked me if you'd ever talked about taking over the publishing division by force. I told him no, of course not, but he seemed convinced. He showed me some letter. What letter? I never wrote any letter. I believe you, brother, Edmund says, placing a hand on Edwin's shoulder with false solidarity. But father doesn't. He thinks you're plotting against him. Maybe you should lay low for a while. Let this blow over. Edwin, panicked and confused, makes the worst possible choice. He goes to Edgar's house that night, trying to force a confrontation to clear his name. But Edgar, primed by Edmund's manipulations, sees this as confirmation of aggression. The argument escalates. Edgar, in a fury fueled by betrayal and fear, strikes his own son. Edwin flees into the London night, his face bleeding, his world collapsed. He has nowhere to go, no one to turn to. Edmund has played his hand perfectly. The legitimate son is cast out, and the bastard stands ready to inherit everything. Back in Belgravia, Leon discovers that Regan's hospitality also comes with conditions. The dinner parties stop. The invitations to recording sessions dry up. Regan begins talking about consolidation and efficiency, using the same corporate language as Gwendolyn. She suggests Leon might be happier in a quieter environment, perhaps a nice cottage in the countryside, away from the chaos of the music business. "You're exhausted, Daddy," she says, her voice all concern and control. "The city is too much for you. You need rest, peace. Let me find you somewhere perfect. Somewhere you can finally relax." Leon hears what she's really saying. Somewhere out of the way. Somewhere that won't complicate her management of Kingdom Records. Somewhere he can be forgotten while still technically cared for. He's not a father to them. He's not even a king. He's a problem to be managed, minimized, solved. That night, Leon stands at the window of Regan's townhouse, looking out at Belgravia's elegant streets, and realizes, with crushing clarity, what he's done. He divided his kingdom between two daughters who loved only power, and exiled the one daughter who loved him enough to be honest. He fired Harry Kent, his oldest friend, for speaking truth. He's built a kingdom of sound and fury, and now it signifies nothing but his own monumental foolishness. The rain begins to fall, washing over London's ancient stones, and Leon, king legend, empire builder, finally understands the magnitude of his mistake. November descends on London with bitter cold and skeletal trees. The city hunkers down for winter, steam rising from grates, fog settling into the narrow streets of Soho where the clubs still pulse with heat and sound. But for Leon King, there is no warmth anywhere. Regan's patience, always performative, has finally evaporated. The cottage in the countryside was mentioned once, then twice, then presented as inevitable, but Leon refuses to be exiled to pastoral irrelevance, refuses to disappear quietly into retirement like a faded photograph. The tension in the Belgravia townhouse becomes unbearable. Marcus stops pretending civility. Regan's voice loses its honeyed coating, and Leon finds himself increasingly confined to his third-floor bedroom, a prisoner in gilded The breaking point comes on a Wednesday morning. Leon wakes to find his few remaining possessions being packed by a housemaid he's never seen before. His clothes, his records, his personal effects all being sorted into boxes with efficient, impersonal hands. "What the hell is this?" Leon demands, standing in the doorway in his pajamas, suddenly aware of how old he looks, how diminished. Regan appears behind him, already dressed for the office in a burgundy velvet suit that costs more than most people earn in a month. "We discussed this, Daddy, the cottage. It's all arranged. The movers are coming this afternoon. We didn't discuss anything. You talked at me. Because you won't listen to reason." Regan's voice hardens, the mask finally slipping completely. "You're impossible to live with. You wander around at all hours. You drink too much. You bore Marcus's clients with stories they've heard 1,000 times. You're not running Kingdom Records anymore, Daddy. You're not running anything. You're a retired old man who needs to accept that his time is over." The words land like physical blows. Leon feels something crack inside him, some final support beam of dignity giving way. I gave you everything. The London office, the studios, the European distribution. I gave you an empire. And I'm grateful, Regan says, but there's no gratitude in her voice, only irritation. But gratitude doesn't mean I have to let you disrupt my life indefinitely. Gwendolyn was smart. She got rid of you after 2 weeks. I gave you nearly 2 months. That's love, Daddy. That's me being the better daughter, better daughter. Leon's voice rises, years of suppressed rage finally breaking through. You're both vultures. You flattered me, manipulated me, and the second you got what you wanted, you couldn't get rid of me fast enough. Cordelia was right. She was right about everything. Regan's face flashes with genuine anger. Cordelia, the ungrateful brat who couldn't even pretend to love you. You're delusional, old man. Senile. Maybe we should be discussing more than just a cottage. Maybe we should be discussing proper care facilities, places with nurses and medication, and get out of my way. Leon pushes past her, moving with sudden purpose. He pulls clothes from the boxes the maid is packing, dresses quickly, his hands shaking with fury and adrenaline. Regan watches from the doorway, her expression shifting from anger to calculation. Where do you think you're going? Anywhere that's not here. Leon grabs his old leather jacket, the one he wore in the early days, still hanging in the closet like a ghost of who he used to be. I still have friends in this city. Real friends, not grasping children wearing friendship as a costume. Fine, go. Regan's voice is ice now. All pretense abandoned, but don't come crawling back when those real friends realize you're broke and powerless. You gave away your empire, remember? You're nobody now. Just an old man with stories nobody wants to hear anymore. Leon walks past her, down the elegant stairs, through the townhouse that never felt like home. Mickey is waiting in the foyer, somehow already alerted, his weathered comedian's face grave with concern. Heard raised voices. Mickey says, quietly, "Thought you might need an exit strategy. I need a lot more than that." Leon's voice cracks slightly. "I need to be someone other than who I've become." They step out into the grey London morning. The cold hits immediately, November wind cutting through Leon's leather jacket like it's made of paper. He realizes he left without taking anything. No money, no identification, nothing but the clothes on his back and the crushing weight of his mistakes. "Where to, then?" Mickey asks, lighting a cigarette with hands that shake slightly from more than just the cold. Leon looks up and down the elegant Belgravia Street, at the townhouses that cost fortunes, at the gleaming cars parked like chess pieces. Everything is expensive, polished, empty. He thinks of Cordelia, of Harry Kent, of everyone he exiled for telling him truths he didn't want to hear. "Find Harry," Leon says. "Find Harry Kent. I need to apologize. I need to make this right." Mickey nods slowly. Harry's been working with some of the smaller labels. Last I heard, he was producing a session in Brixton. "We could try there." They walk toward the underground station. Two aging men moving through London's morning rush like ghosts, invisible to the young people hurrying to jobs and futures. The city swirls around them, buses roaring past, pigeons scattering, the smell of coffee and exhaust and rain-soaked pavement. Leon feels utterly disconnected from it all, a man out of time, watching a world that's moved on without him. In his pocket, he has perhaps £3 in loose change. No credit cards, those are all controlled by his daughters now, part of the efficient management of his finances. No keys to anywhere, no claim on anything. He is, as Regan so brutally put it, nobody. The realization should terrify him. Instead, it brings a strange, vertiginous freedom. For the first time in months, no one is managing him, controlling him, making decisions about his life. He's broke and homeless and completely untethered, but he's also, paradoxically, free. They descend into the underground, into the fluorescent-lit tunnels that smell of electricity and humanity. A busker plays guitar badly, mangling a Donovan song. Someone has chalked "Make Love Not War" on the tunnel wall. The machinery of London grinds on, indifferent to the fall of kings. Mickey buys their tickets with his own dwindling funds. They board the southbound train, squeezed between shopgirls and students and working men reading newspapers. The headlines speak of protests, of Vietnam, of social change sweeping across the Western world. Everything is in flux, everything is changing, and Leon King, who once changed the world himself, is just another passenger on a crowded train. Going nowhere in particular, the recording studio in Brixton occupies the basement of a converted Victorian house, tucked between a West Indian grocery and a betting shop. The neighborhood pulses with a different energy than Belgravia, diverse, alive with the sound of scar bleeding from open windows and the smell of curry and jerk chicken mixing with the perpetual London dampness. This is the London that Leon remembers, the London that built rock and roll from blues records and desperate dreams. Mickey pushes open the unmarked door and they descend stairs that smell of mildew and old cigarettes. The sound hits them halfway down a bass line thick as syrup. Drums like a heartbeat, and over it all, a voice crying out something that might be pain or ecstasy or both. The music is rough, unpolished, nothing that would ever get radio play on the BBC. It's perfect. Harry Kent sits behind the mixing board, his massive frame hunched over the controls, making minute adjustments with the delicacy of a watchmaker. He's gained weight since Leon last saw him, his beard grown wild and greying, but his eyes still have that focused intensity, that ability to hear what a song could be rather than what it is. The session ends, the band for black kids who can't be older than 20 file out of the live room, sweating and exhilarated. Harry says something that makes them laugh, then notices the figures standing in the doorway. His expression goes carefully neutral. Leon. The name hangs in the stale basement air. The band members sense the tension, make quick excuses, disappear up the stairs into the Brixton afternoon. Suddenly, it's just the three of them, Leon, Mickey, and Harry Kent, surrounded by the machinery of music making, by cables and microphones and the ghosts of 1,000 recorded performances. "I was wrong," Leon says. The words come out smaller than he intended. That night in Camden. "Everything I said, everything I did, was wrong, Harry. You tried to tell me, and I threw you out like garbage. Like you didn't matter. Like 23 years meant nothing." Harry doesn't respond immediately. He lights a cigarette, takes a long drag, studies Leon like he's a puzzle that doesn't quite make sense. "You look like hell, mate, like you've been sleeping rough." "Close enough." Leon moves into the room, feeling every one of his 63 years in his bones. "Gwendolyn threw me out after 3 weeks. Well, not through efficiently managed my exit. Regan lasted 2 months before she started talking about care facilities and senility. They took everything, Harry. The empire I built, the dignity I had left. Everything except the crushing knowledge that you were right and I was a fool. And Cordelia." Harry's voice is careful, controlled. "I don't know where she is. I was hoping you might." Harry exchanges a glance with Mickey, something passing between them that Leon can't quite read. She's been around, working with some of the experimental labels, producing sessions for acts that care more about art than commerce. "She's good, Leon, really good. Got your ear but also a vision all her own. I need to see her. I need to." Leon's voice cracks. "I need to tell her she was right. about everything. The honesty I punished her for was the only real love I got, and I threw it away because my pride was bigger than my sense. She's in a session across town. Won't be done until late. Harry stands, his bulk seeming to fill the small control room. But you can't just show up and expect forgiveness, Leon. You gutted her that night, in front of everyone. You chose flattery over truth, and you made her feel worthless for being honest. That kind of wound does unheal just because you finally figured out what everyone else already knew. I know. Leon slumps into a chair, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve anything. But I have to try. I have to make it right, or at least admit how wrong I was. Harry studies him for a long moment, and something softens in his weathered face. You can stay at my place tonight. It's not much a flat in Hackney, barely room for me, but it's warm and there's a couch. Tomorrow, when Cordelia's done with her session, I'll take you to her. But Leon, she may not want to see you. You need to be prepared for that. I'm prepared for anything, Leon says, but he's lying. He's not prepared for any of this. The poverty, the homelessness, the slow unraveling of everything he thought he was. He's certainly not prepared for the possibility that his youngest daughter, the one he loved best and hurt worst, might look at him with the same cold dismissal he showed her that night in Harry's cramped Hackney flat that smells of takeaway curry and old records. Leon lies awake on a sagging couch while traffic noise filters through thin walls. The flat is cluttered with the archaeology of Harry's career gold records. Photographs, boxes of master tapes, the accumulated debris of a life spent making music. On the wall above the couch hangs a photograph from 1958, Leon and Harry, impossibly young, standing outside a club in Hamburg with guitars and dreams. Leon stares at that photograph in the darkness and barely recognizes the man he used to be. That Leon King was hungry, ambitious, uncompromising. He believed in music with religious fervor. He built an empire on instinct and integrity and the absolute certainty that he could hear something in the chaos that others missed. When did he stop being that man? When did he start needing validation more than truth? When did his daughters learn that love was performance, that honesty was weakness, that empire was more important than family? The questions chase each other through his exhausted mind while London grinds through its night. Outside the thin walls, somewhere in this same city, Gwendolyn sleeps in her Mayfair hotel suite, already planning the next acquisition, the next consolidation. Somewhere else, Regan lies beside Marcus in Belgravia luxury, both of them relieved to be rid of the old man who complicated their elegant life. And somewhere Cordelia makes music, creates art, does the work Leon taught her to love. Without him, without his approval, without his kingdom, he has lost everything. The empire, the daughters, the identity he built across 40 years. All that remains is the hollow core of who he is without the armor of success and power. And that core, Leon realizes with creeping horror, might be nothing at all. Morning comes grey and bitter. Harry makes instant coffee in chipped mugs while the radio plays the pirate stations broadcasting from ships. In the north, Sir Radio Caroline spinning the Kinks, The Who, all the bands that Leon's label helped break. The music sounds distant now, like transmissions from another lifetime. She's at the Roundhouse tonight, Harry says, stirring sugar into his coffee with a bent spoon. Big experimental showcase. Psychedelic light shows, avant-garde, jazz, poetry. The kind of thing you would have called uncommercial nonsense 5 years ago. And now, Leon asks, now it's the future. While you were dividing your empire, the empire was already crumbling. The old model, the studio system, the manufactured hits, the control it's dying. Leon, these kids don't want to be managed. They want to be free. The irony isn't lost on Leon. He sought freedom by dividing his kingdom, and instead found himself more trapped than ever. Meanwhile, the artists he once controlled have liberated themselves completely. They arrive at the Roundhouse in Camden as evening settles over London. The converted railway engine shed throbs with sound and light. Its circular Victorian architecture, perfect for the swirling, chaotic energy of the psychedelic era. Young people stream through the entrancemen with hair to their shoulders. Women in flowing dresses. Everyone decorated with beads and bells and the insignia of a generation rejecting everything their parents built. Leon feels ancient among them, a relic from a dead age. The music inside is nothing like the clean, commercial sound Kingdom Records perfected. This is raw, experimental, aggressive feedback and improvisation and poetry shouted over drums that sound like war. Lights swirl across the circular walls, projections of oil and water mixing into hypnotic patterns. The air is thick with incense and marijuana smoke. Harry pushes through the crowd toward the sound booth, Leon and Mickey following in his wake. And there, behind a bank of equipment that looks more like a spaceship than a mixing board, is Cordelia. She's changed. Her hair is longer, wilder. She wears jeans and a man's shirt splattered with paint, work boots instead of the mod fashion her sisters favor. She's completely absorbed in the mix, adjusting levels, cueing the light operators, conducting the chaos like a symphony. She's beautiful in a way Leon never fully appreciated, not polished or performative, but authentic, alive, fully herself. Harry touches her shoulder. She turns, sees him, smiles and then sees Leon. The smile dies. Her expression goes carefully blank, a door slamming shut. "No, Cordelia, please," Leon starts. "No." She turns back to her board, hands moving across controls with practiced precision. "I'm working. You need to leave. I came to apologize. I was wrong about everything. You tried to tell me the truth, and you called me ungrateful. You exiled me. You chose flattery over honesty and got exactly what you deserved." Cordelia's voice is steady, professional, but Leon can hear the pain underneath, still fresh despite the months. "I don't have time for your regrets, Leon. I have a show to run." She called him Leon, not Daddy, not Father Leon. The distance in that single word is vast as an ocean. "Please," Leon's voice breaks. "I have nothing left. Your sisters took everything. I'm homeless, powerless, and I finally understand what you were trying to tell me. I just need you to hear that I'm sorry, that you were right." Cordelia's hands still on the mixing board. For a moment, Leon thinks he's reached her, but when she turns, her eyes are hard. "You want forgiveness, absolution. You think because you've lost your empire, you've somehow earned the right to my compassion." She steps closer, and Leon can see tears threatening at the corners of her eyes, held back by sheer will. "You taught me everything about music, about integrity, about loving the art more than the business. And then, when it mattered most, you betrayed every lesson you ever taught. You chose lies. You exiled truth. And now you want me to comfort you because the liars you empowered did exactly what liars do. Cordelia, get out." Her voice rises, cutting through even the experimental cacophony echoing through the roundhouse. "Get out of my show, out of my life. I don't owe you forgiveness. I don't owe you anything." The rejection hits Leon like a physical blow. He staggers backward, and suddenly the roundhouse seems to tilt and spin, the swirling lights becoming a vortex, the music becoming chaos. Everything fragmenting into pieces he can no longer hold together. He runs, pushes through the crowd of beautiful young people, their faces blurring into a kaleidoscope of judgment and indifference. Out into the Camden night, into rain that started falling in cold, punishing sheets. The streets are slick and black, reflecting neon signs and streetlights in fractured patterns. Mickey and Harry chase after him, calling his name, but Leon doesn't stop. He runs through Camden, through the streets where he built his empire, past the warehouse that housed Kingdom Records, past clubs where he discovered legends, through the geography of his former glory, now transformed into a maze of his own failure. The rain intensifies, becoming a downpour, a deluge. Leon's leather jacket provides no protection. He's soaked within seconds, water streaming down his face, mixing with tears he doesn't remember starting to cry. The cold is absolute, penetrating to his bones, and still he walks. No destination, no purpose, just movement through the storm. Somewhere he loses Mickey and Harry. Somewhere the city becomes abstract, just lights and rain and the sound of his own ragged breathing. He ends up on Hampstead Heath, that wild expanse of parkland where London pretends to be countryside. The heath at night, in the rain, is primolescent trees bending in wind, grass turned to mud. The city's lights, distant and meaningless. Leon King, who built an empire of sound, who changed music, who conquered the world, collapses in the mud and rain and screams at the indifferent sky. He screams his rage, his regret, his absolute incomprehension of how he arrived here broken, alone, rejected by the only person whose love was ever real. The storm answers with thunder, and Leon laughs a wild, cracked sound that might be madness beginning, or sanity finally arriving too late. They find him at dawn. Harry and Mickey, soaked and exhausted from searching through the night, discover Leon King curled beneath a massive oak on Hampstead. Heath's barely conscious hypothermic, his lips blue and his silver hair plastered to his skull like a death mask. He's muttering something incomprehensible, fragments of song lyrics and business deals and apologies mixing into a nonsense poetry of guilt and grief. Harry carries him, this giant of a man carrying what remains of another giant down, through the heath to the road where they've left Harry's battered van. They take him not to a hospital where questions would be asked and the press would circle like vultures, but to a squat in Notting Hill, where a collective of musicians and artists have created a refuge from the straight world's demands. The squat occupies an entire Georgian townhouse scheduled for demolition. Its elegant bones filled with mismatched furniture, Indian tapestries, and the sweet smoke of marijuana and incense. A girl named Sunshine. Everyone here has names like that. Chosen identities for chosen lives, tends to Leon with surprising competence. She strips off his wet clothes, wraps him in blankets, makes him drink hot tea laced with honey and whiskey. He's burning up, she says, her hand on Leon's forehead. Fever. He needs antibiotics. He needs more than that, Mickey says quietly, watching his old friend shake beneath layers of blankets, still muttering, still lost somewhere between memory and madness. For 3 days, Leon hovers in a twilight state. The fever breaks and returns, breaks and returns. When he's lucid, he speaks in fragments quoting King Lear, the real King Lear, Shakespeare's version, as if he's finally recognized himself in that ancient mirror. I am a man more sinned against than sinning, he whispers. How sharper than a serpent's tooth. When the fever has him, he conducts orchestras that aren't there, negotiates contracts with ghosts, argues with his daughters who exist only in his burning mind. The squat's residents move around him like worried attendants to genuine royalty. This legendary figure who built the soundtrack to their rebellion, now reduced to a shaking old man who might not survive his own mistakes. On the 4th day, Cordelia appears, Harry called her. broke through her anger with the simple truth. Your father is dying. She arrives in the early evening, when the squat's inhabitants are beginning their nightly rituals, someone playing sitar in the corner, others preparing communal dinner, the smell of curry and marijuana thick in the air. She climbs the stairs to the second-floor room where Leon lies, and stands in the doorway for a long moment, just watching. He's asleep or unconscious, the distinction seems irrelevant. His face is gaunt, sunken, the skin stretched tight over bones that seem more prominent than they should be. He's aged a decade in the months since he divided his kingdom. The empire builder, the legend, reduced to this fragile shell. Cordelia sits beside the makeshift bed, takes his hand. It's cold despite the blankets, dry as paper. She studies his face, her father's face, so familiar and yet transformed by suffering into something she almost doesn't recognize. I'm still angry, she says quietly, though he can't hear her. I'm furious at you for what you did, for choosing their lies over my truth. But I don't want you to die, Daddy. I don't want this to be how your story ends. Leon's eyes flutter open. For a moment he doesn't seem to see her, his gaze unfocused, lost. Then recognition filters in, and with it, something that might be joy or might be anguish. Cordelia. His voice is a rasp, barely audible. Are you real, or are you another fever dream come to punish me? I'm real. She squeezes his hand gently. Then I'm in hell, because heaven wouldn't torture me with what I can't have. Tears leak from the corners of his eyes. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, baby girl. You were the only one who loved me, and I threw you away like garbage, like you meant nothing. I deserve this. I deserve all of it. Stop. Cordelia's own tears are flowing now, despite her anger, despite everything. Just stop, Daddy. You need to rest. You need to get better. Why? So I can live long enough to see how thoroughly I destroyed everything. Leon tries to sit up, fails, collapses back against the pillows. Your sisters have kingdom records. They're dismantling everything we built. I heard Evan through the fever. I heard they're selling off the experimental labels, dropping artists who don't chart immediately, turning it all into just another corporate machine. Everything I believed in, everything we created together, they're killing it for profit margins. This is true. Word has filtered through the London music scene that Kingdom Records under Goneril and Regan's joint control has become ruthless, efficient, soulless. Artists are being dropped mid-contract. Studio time is being rationed. The old guard producers, engineers, A&R scouts who built the label S reputation are being systematically replaced by business school graduates who see music as product and nothing more. Then we'll build something new, Cordelia says, surprising herself with the words even as she speaks them. When you're well, we'll start over, like you did the first time. Just you, me, and Harry. We'll remember what music is supposed to be. Leon studies her face, searching for mockery or false comfort. Finding only fierce determination, he begins to weep deep, racking sobs that shake his weakened frame. Cordelia holds him. This man who was once so strong, so certain, now broken by the consequences of his own pride. Outside the window, London continues its endless cycle. Night falls over Notting Hill, over Camden and Belgravia and Brixton, over all the neighbourhoods where music is being made in basement studios and squats and converted warehouses. The city that Leon King helped soundtrack pulses on, indifferent to the fall of fathers and the fracturing of empires. But in this small room, in this temporary refuge, something fragile begins to grow. Not forgiveness exactly, that will take time, if it comes at all, but something like hope. The possibility that love, even wounded love, might be stronger than pride. That honesty, even painful honesty, might be the only foundation worth building on. That the kingdom of sound Leon created might yet be reborn from its own ashes, smaller perhaps, but true. Leon's recovery is slow, measured in small victories. The first day he can sit up without help. The second day he eats solid food. By the end of the week, he's walking around the squat, leaning on Cordelia's arm, shuffling like a man 20 years older than his actual age. The squat's residents treat him with reverent gentleness, this living legend among them, fallen but not yet destroyed. Cordelia moves into the squat to care for him. She sleeps on a mattress on the floor beside his bed, wakes when his nightmares shake him awake, sits with him during the long afternoons when memory and regret make the present unbearable. They talk, slowly, carefully, about everything that happened and everything that came before. "I remember when you were 6, Leon says one grey afternoon, watching rain streak the windows. "I brought you to a session B.B. King was recording, you remember, and you sat perfectly still for 3 hours, just listening. Afterward you told me you could see the music. Not hear it, see it. Colors and shapes in the air. I still can," Cordelia says. "That's what I'm trying to capture in the experimental sessions. That visual dimension of sound. I called it uncommercial nonsense." Leon's laugh is bitter. "I got so focused on what would sell, I forgot why any of it mattered in the first place." Across London, the consequences of that forgotten purpose spread like infection. Kingdom Records offices have become a battlefield. Goneril and Regan, who united against their father, now turn on each other. Goneril wants to consolidate everything under American control, turn Kingdom into a subsidiary of a larger conglomerate. Regan wants to maintain British independence, keep the London office as the creative heart while maximizing profit. Their conflict creates opportunities for others. Edmund Gloucester, still playing the role of loyal son while his legitimate brother Edwin remains exiled and hiding, has positioned himself perfectly. With Edgar Gloucester paranoid and isolated with the king's sisters at war with each other, Edmund sees his chance to seize control of the publishing division, the real money in music, the copyrights that generate income long after the artists are forgotten. He courts both sisters carefully, playing them against each other with the skill of a master manipulator. To Gwendolen, he suggests that Regan is trying to push her out entirely. To Regan, he hints that Gwendolen is planning a hostile takeover. He provides each with confidential information about the other's supposed plans. Carefully fabricated documents, forged correspondence. The sisters, already suspicious, already hungry for total control, believe every word. The situation reaches crisis when both sisters show up at the Camden warehouse on the same morning, each believing they have sole authority to fire the other's staff. The confrontation is spectacular screaming in the halls, lawyers summoned, threats of litigation flying like shrapnel. The musicians and producers and engineers who actually make the music watch in horrified fascination as the King Empire devours itself. Mickey, still working as a consultant despite everything, witnesses the meltdown. That evening, he reports back to the squat, to Leon and Cordelia and Harry, gathered around the communal table while someone-esque vegetarian stew simmers on the stove. "It's total chaos," Mickey says, accepting a cup of tea from Sunshine. Gwendolen's trying to sell the whole operation to CBS Records. Regan's trying to buy out Gwendolen's share with money she doesn't have. They've both approached Edmund Gloucester about backing their respective plays, and that sneaky bastard is encouraging both of them while planning his own move. Leon's attention sharpens. He may be weakened, but the instincts that built an empire still function. Edgar's bastard son, what's his angle? Publishing rights. While the sisters fight over the label, Edmund's been quietly securing control of the copyrights. He's got Edgar convinced that Edwin the legitimate son's trying to steal everything. So Edgar's signed over power of attorney. Edmund's got access to the entire catalogue now. Harry swears softly. That's hundreds of songs. Thousands. Every hit Kingdom ever released. All the royalties flowing forward for decades. And Edwin, Cordelia asks, where is he in all this? Mickey's expression darkens. On the streets. Edgar threw him out, cut him off completely. Last I heard, he was sleeping rough near Waterloo Station. Still trying to prove his innocence. Still trying to figure out what the hell happened. The parallels are obvious, painful. Leon meets Cordelia's eyes across the table, sees his own guilt reflected there. Another father who believed lies over truth. Another child cast out for crimes they didn't commit. We need to find Edwin, Leon says. Bring him here. If Edmund's playing the game I think he's playing, Edwin might be the only one who can expose it. That night, Harry and Mickey scour the areas around Waterloo Station, searching the doorways and underpasses where London's homeless population seeks shelter from the November cold. They find Edwin Gloucester huddled in a railway arch, his expensive clothes now filthy and torn, his face hollow with hunger and despair. He doesn't recognize them at first. Paranoia and privation have made everyone a potential threat. But Harry speaks gently, offers food, explains about Leon and Cordelia, about the squat in Notting Hill where the fallen gather to rebuild. Edwin follows them like a ghost, barely speaking, barely present, a man who lost everything and can't comprehend how or why. At the squat, Cordelia tends to him with the same fierce compassion she's shown Leon. She feeds him, finds him clean clothes, sits with him while he tells his story in broken fragments, the forged letter, his father's sudden hatred, his brother's betrayal disguised as concern. Edmund did this, Edwin says, his voice raw. I don't know how, but I know he did. He always resented me, always felt cheated because our father acknowledged him but never really claimed him. And now he's taking everything. Leon listens from his chair by the window, watching the rain, and sees his own reflection in Edwin's tragedy. How many people has he destroyed through pride and poor judgment? How many lives has his mistake touched and tainted? Then we stop him, Leon says quietly. We expose what he's done. We rebuild what can be rebuilt, and let the rest burn if it has to. Cordelia looks at her father, still weak, still haunted, but with something returning to his eyes. Purpose, maybe, or just the stubborn refusal to let villains win that built an empire in the first place. Outside, London sprawls through its November darkness, a city of 8 million stories. Most of them about survival and betrayal, and the small, fierce determination to keep going despite everything. In a Belgravia townhouse, Regan plots against her sister. In a Mayfair hotel, Gwendolen plans her counterstrike. In Kingdom Records' legal department, Edmund Gloucester positions his final pieces for checkmate. And in a condemned squat in Notting Hill, the wounded gather their strength for one last battle against the Kingdom of Lies. The plan forms over days of careful discussion in the squat's communal spaces. Edwin produces evidence fragments, nothing conclusive, but enough to establish patterns. A discarded practice sheet where Edmund was copying his handwriting. Witnesses who saw Edmund at the office late at night when he had no reason to be there. The timeline of Edgar's sudden paranoia matching precisely with Edmund's increased concern for his father's welfare. It won't be enough for the police, Harry says, studying the assembled materials spread across a low table. But it might be enough for your father. If we can get Edgar to really listen before Edmund completes whatever endgame he's planning. Leon has been quiet, thinking. The fever may have passed, but it's left him changed. Thinner, more fragile, but also somehow clarified. The excess burned away, leaving only essentials. Edmund's not the real problem, he says finally. He's a symptom. The real disease is what I created, a culture where manipulation wins, where flattery is rewarded and honesty is punished. Edmund learned from watching me destroy Cordelia for telling the truth. Daddy, you can't blame yourself for Edmund's choices, Cordelia says, but there's less conviction in her voice than there might have been. She's seen how rot spreads through systems, how the lessons leaders teach echo through everything they touch. Can't I? Leon's smile is grim. I taught an entire industry that performance matters more than substance, that the lie that sells is better than the truth that doesn't. Edmund just took that lesson to its logical conclusion. The next morning, they make their move. Edgar Gloucester still maintains an office at Kingdom Records, though his power has been largely usurped by his bastard son's machinations. Leon, supported by Harry on one side and Edwin on the other, makes the painful journey from Notting Hill to Camden. Each step costs him the lingering weakness from his illness, turning the walk from the tube station into an ordeal, but he refuses to stop. The warehouse that houses Kingdom Records feels different now. Where it once hummed with creative energy, now it vibrates with corporate tension. The gold records on the walls look like artifacts from an extinct civilization. Young executives in suits hurry past with briefcases and suspicious expressions. The music itself seems absent, replaced by the sound of ringing phones and clicking typewriters. Edgar's office is on the 3rd floor, tucked away from the main operations. They find him behind his desk, surrounded by legal documents, looking older than his 65 years. He glances up, sees Edwin, and his face hardens with instant fury. How dare you show your face here after what? Edwin's voice is steady now, strengthened by purpose. After you threw me out based on a letter I never wrote. After you believed the worst of me without even asking for my side. I saw your handwriting. Edmund showed me. Edmund forged it. Leon moves forward, easing himself into a chair without invitation. Edgar, we've been friends for 30 years. You discovered half my best acts. You're smarter than this. Think about the timing. Think about who benefited from you and Edwin being at war. Edgar looks between them, Leon, skeletal and intense. Edwin, desperate and honest. Harry, solid and credible. Something flickers in his face, doubt creeping in past the fortifications of paranoia. Edmund's been positioning himself to take the publishing catalogue, Harry says quietly, while you've been isolated, while you've been focused on Edwin's supposed betrayal. He's been securing power of attorney, consolidating control. He's played you, mate, played you brilliantly. No, but Edgar's denial lacks conviction. Edmund wouldn't. He's been loyal. He's been the only one I could trust, like Goneril and Regan were loyal to me. Leon's laugh is bitter. Edgar, look at me. Really look. This is what believing flattery over truth gets you. I exiled my best daughter and empowered my worst ones. You've done the same with your sons. The only question is whether you're going to recognize it in time to fix it. The door opens. Edmund Gloucester enters, carrying a sheaf of documents, and freezes when he sees the gathering. His practiced expression of concern slips for just a moment, revealing the calculation beneath. Father, what's going on? Why is he here? He points at Edwin with well-performed shock and hurt. He's here because I invited him, Leon says. Because we're done with your performance, Edmund. Done with the forged letters and the manipulations. You're good, I'll give you that. You learned from watching me how to play people. But the game's over. Edmund's face goes through rapid changes: shock, denial, anger for settling into cold contempt. You can't prove anything. You're a washed-up old man living in a squat, and Edwin's a paranoid outcast. Who's going to believe you? I am. The voice comes from the doorway. Mickey stands there, holding a tape recorder. Remember yesterday when you were chatting with me at the pub, Edmund? When you'd had a few whiskies and got a bit loose with the details? When you explained exactly how you forged that letter? How you manipulated Edgar? How you planned to leverage the publishing catalog for a buyout deal with CBS? I remember. And so does this tape. Edmund's face drains of color. For a moment, rage replaces calculation, pure, undiluted fury at being outmaneuvered. Then he lunges, not at Mickey, but at the tape recorder, trying to destroy the evidence. Harry intercepts him, his massive bulk stopping Edmund cold. Easy there, son. It's over. Accept it with some dignity. Edgar has risen from his chair, staring at Edmund like he's never seen him before. Tell me it's not true. Tell me you didn't do this. Edmund, trapped and cornered, does the only thing left to him. He laughs. Of course I did it. What did you expect? You acknowledged me, but never really claimed me. Made me a Gloucester, but never let me forget I was the bastard. Edwin got everything: your love, your respect, your plans for succession. What was I supposed to do? Just accept it? You were supposed to be honest, Edgar says quietly. You were supposed to be my son. I was always your son. You just never noticed because you were too busy loving him. Edmund gestures at Edwin with contempt. Well, congratulations, father. You've lost us both now. Because I'm done with this family, and after what you did to him, I doubt Edwin's interested in reconciliation either. He pushes past Harry, past all of them, and disappears down the hallway. The sound of his footsteps fades, leaving behind only the wreckage of another family destroyed by pride and prejudice. Edgar collapses into his chair, suddenly ancient. Edwin approaches slowly, and father and son regard each other across a chasm of hurt that may be too wide to bridge. I'm sorry, Edgar says finally. I'm so sorry, son. I should have trusted you. I should have known. Edwin nods slowly. The forgiveness, if it comes, will take time. But at least the truth is finally visible. Outside the office, Leon leans against the wall, exhausted beyond measure. Cordelia appears beside him, having waited downstairs. Did it work? It worked. Edgar knows the truth now. Edmund's exposed. Leon closes his eyes, but it doesn't feel like victory. Just more casualties in a war nobody should have been fighting. Below them, in the warehouse's main floor, raised voices echo. The King's sisters have arrived simultaneously again, their conflict escalating toward inevitable confrontation. The kingdom is tearing itself apart, and no amount of truth can stop what's already been set in motion. December arrives with frost on London's windows and a cold that cuts to the bone. The city decorates itself for Christmas lights strung along Oxford Street, tinsel in shop windows, carols playing from department store speakers. But there's no peace, no goodwill in the offices of Kingdom Records, where the empire Leon built is finally, irrevocably collapsing. The break between Gwendolyn and Regan is total now. Gwendolyn has filed paperwork to dissolve the partnership and sell her half of Kingdom Records to CBS. Regan, desperate to maintain control, has countered with an injunction and accusations of breach of contract. Their lawyers circle each other like sharks, fees mounting while the actual business bleeds money and artists flee to other labels. Edmund Gloucester, exposed but not yet defeated, makes his final play. He has been quietly shopping the publishing catalogue, the copyrights to every song Kingdom Records ever released, to the highest bidder. With his father incapacitated by shock and grief, with the King's sisters too busy destroying each other to notice. Edmund has a narrow window to complete the sale and disappear with millions before anyone can stop him. But Edmund is not content with mere theft. He's been nursing rage his entire life. Rage at his illegitimacy, at his exclusion, at watching others claim what he feels should be his. He wants to hurt the people who hurt him. Specifically, he wants to destroy Leon King, the man whose casual dismissal of Cordelia taught Edmund that family loyalty was weakness. He finds his instrument of revenge in Regan's desperation. She's losing the war with Gwendolyn. Her injunction failed. Her financing fell through. She's drowning, and Edmund offers her a lifeline. The publishing catalogue, signed over to her instead of sold to CBS, in exchange for one simple favor. Leon and Cordelia are trying to rebuild, Edmund says, meeting Regan in a dark Camden pub that smells of spilled beer and old cigarettes. They're working with some of the artists I dropped, planning to start a new label. They're going to use what happened to you and Gwendolyn as a cautionary tale, paint themselves as the conscience of the industry. Your father, risen from the ashes, wiser and pure. Regan's face hardens. She's heard the rumors Leon holding court at the Squat. Musicians gathering to hear the legends speak about the old days, about integrity and art. The narrative is shifting, making her and Gwendolyn into villains, while Leon becomes a sympathetic figure, a fool who learned his lesson. What do you want me to do about it? She asks. Shut them down. Legally, financially, don't care how. But make it impossible for them to rebuild. Make sure Leon King's last chapter is homeless and broken, not redeemed and triumphant. Regan considers this, swirling the gin in her glass. If I help you, the catalogue is mine. All the copyrights. Every single one. You'd control the revenue stream from 3 decades of hits. You wouldn't need Gwendolyn or Kingdom Records. You'd have your own empire. The deal is made with a handshake. 2 wounded, vicious people finding common cause in destruction. Edmund leaves the pub satisfied, already planning his escape to America where money buys anonymity and new identities. Regan stays, nursing her drink and her grievances, planning exactly how to eliminate her father from the industry permanently. She starts with the Squat. A few well-placed calls to the right city officials, and suddenly the condemned building in Notting Hill that's been ignored for months becomes a priority. Health and safety violations, trespassing, illegal occupancy. The police arrive on a cold morning, ordering everyone out, padlocking the doors, leaving 24 people, musicians, artists, Leon, Cordelia, Edwin, Harry, Mickey, Sunshine, and the others, standing on the pavement with nowhere to go. This is Regan, Leon says quietly, watching city workers board up the windows. This has her fingerprints all over it. Cordelia doesn't disagree. She's been expecting something like this, some final betrayal from her sisters, who can't tolerate the possibility of their father finding redemption. Where do we go? Harry's flat, Harry says, but his expression is doubtful. It's small, but we can make it work for a few days while we figure something else out. They scatter, this temporary community of exiles, promising to reconnect, but knowing that something essential has broken. The Squat was more than shelter, it was proof that different ways of living were possible, that community could exist outside commercial structures. Its destruction feels symbolic of larger failures. Leon, Cordelia, Harry, Mickey, and Edwin end up crammed into Harry's Hackney flat, 5 people in a space meant for one. The tension is immediate and grinding. No privacy, no space, the walls seeming to press in with every hour. Leon's health, fragile since his fever, deteriorates in the stress and cold. His cough returns, deep and rattling. Cordelia makes him tea, and tries to keep him warm. But the flat is poorly heated, and the December cold seeps through every crack. At Kingdom Records, Gwendolen learns of Edmund's deal with Regan. Her fury is incandescent. She's been negotiating with CBS for weeks, promising them the complete catalogue only to discover that Edmund has been simultaneously negotiating with her sister, planning to give Regan the leverage that would make Gwendolen's deal worthless. The confrontation happens in the Camden warehouse, in the main office where Leon once held court. The sisters face each other like gunslingers, years of competition and resentment finally exploding into open warfare. "You went behind my back," Gwendolen hisses, her usual controlled demeanor shattered. "You conspired with that bastard Edmund to steal what's rightfully yours." Regan laughs, sharp and bitter. "Nothing's rightfully yours. You manipulated Daddy, same as I did. The only difference is you better at pretending you not a vulture picking at his corpse. At least I'm not actively hunting him down, destroying his last chance at dignity." Dignity? He has no dignity left. He gave it away when he divided the empire like we were props in his vanity play. Now he wants to be the wounded hero, the wise fool who learned his lesson. I won't let him rewrite history and make us the villains. Their argument escalates, becomes physical pushing, shoving Gwendolen's careful control completely abandoned. Security has to pull them apart. Both sisters disheveled and furious, the elegant facade finally stripped away to reveal the raw hunger underneath. Edmund watches from the shadows and smiles. Everything is proceeding exactly as he planned. The sisters destroying each other. Leon and Cordelia isolated and powerless. The catalogue ready to be transferred at his signal. All that remains is the final blow, one that will ensure Leon King's story ends not with redemption, but with absolute, crushing defeat. Edmund's final stroke is elegant in its cruelty. He leaks to the music press that Leon King, the legendary founder of Kingdom Records, has been living in squalor, mentally unstable, trying to sabotage his own daughter's legitimate business ventures. He provides photographs Leon on Hampstead Heath during his breakdown, soaked and wild-eyed. Leon leaving the squat, gaunt and disoriented. The articles write themselves. The fall of a legend, and has Leon King lost his mind? The industry that once revered Leon turns on him with stunning speed. Old colleagues distance themselves. Musicians he discovered give careful, diplomatic statements about how everyone wishes Leon well in his recovery. The subtext is clear: he's finished, diminished. A cautionary tale about holding on too long. The articles reach Harry's flat through Mickey, who buys every paper, reads every cruel word with mounting fury. He doesn't show them to Leon at first, tries to shield him, but Leon finds them anyway, reads them in the grey December light, filtering through Harry's dirty windows, sees his own face transformed into a mask of madness, his life's work reduced to a punchline. "They're not entirely wrong," Leon says, quietly, folding the newspapers with shaking hands. "I did lose my mind, just not the way they think." Cordelia takes the papers, throws them in the bin. "It's Edmund. He's trying to isolate you completely. Make sure no one will back you if you try to rebuild. He's succeeding." Leon's voice is empty, hollowed out. "Who's going to trust me now? Who's going to work with the crazy old man who gave away his empire and ended up living in squats?" His cough worsens that night, deep and wet, the sound of fluid in his lungs. Cordelia wants to take him to hospital, but Leon refuses. Hospitals mean records. Records mean the press. The press means more photographs of his decline. He's already been stripped of everything else he won't surrender his privacy to. December 23rd arrives, grey and frozen. In Belgravia, Regan receives the final paperwork from Edmund, the publishing catalog transfer, ready for her signature. All she needs to do is complete one last task: ensure that Leon and Cordelia's nascent label, the one they've been quietly building with Harry and a handful of loyal artists, never launches. She does it through the banks. A few calls to the right people, reminding them of Leon's instability, his history of poor judgment, the ongoing legal chaos at Kingdom Records. Any institution thinking of backing Leon's new venture suddenly develops cold feet. The financing they were counting on evaporates. The studio time they'd tentatively booked gets mysteriously cancelled. Distributors who expressed interest stop returning calls. Cordelia discovers the full extent of the sabotage on Christmas Eve morning. She's been on the phone for hours, trying to salvage something, anything. Every door slams in her face. Finally, one sympathetic contact tells her the truth. Your sister, Regan's, been making calls. She's making it impossible for anyone to work with you. I'm sorry, love, but no one wants to cross the King's sisters. They control too much. Cordelia hangs up and sits in Harry's cramped kitchen, staring at nothing. Behind her, she can hear Leon's labored breathing from the next room, punctuated by fits of coughing. They have nothing. No money, no resources, no industry support. Her sisters have won so completely that even the possibility of rebuilding has been erased. That same morning, at Kingdom Records, the final confrontation between Gwendolyn and Regan explodes into violence. They've both arrived to sign competing contracts, Gwendolyn selling to CBS, Regan accepting Edmund's catalogue in exchange for killing their father's comeback. The lawyers try to mediate, but years of resentment and competition can't be contained anymore. The fight is vicious, desperate. Office furniture overturned. Gwendolyn's carefully styled hair pulled loose. Regan's velvet jacket torn. They claw at each other like animals, screaming accusations and truths that cut deeper than any physical blow. Security finally separates them, but the damage is done. Kingdom Records, the empire Leon built, the cathedral to music he erected from nothing, is finished. No company will buy a label whose owners are literally at war. No artist will sign with them. The dream is dead. Edmund watches this final destruction with satisfaction, signs his own papers, and disappears. By evening, he's on a plane to New York with a briefcase full of bearer bonds and a new identity waiting. He's stolen millions, destroyed the King family completely, and escaped without consequence. The bastard son, always underestimated, has won. In Hackney, Leon's condition deteriorates rapidly. The cough produces blood now, bright and terrifying on the handkerchief he tries to hide. His fever returns with a vengeance. He drifts in and out of consciousness, mumbling fragment song lyrics, business deals, apologies to Cordelia that break her heart every time. We have to get him to hospital, Cordelia tells Harry on Christmas Eve night. I don't care about the press anymore. He's dying, Harry. He's actually dying. They bundle Leon into Harry's van in the frozen pre-dawn of Christmas morning. The streets are empty, London silent under a dusting of snow that makes everything look clean and new and full of false promise. At University College Hospital, they carry Leon through automatic doors that hiss open like mechanical breath. The doctors work quickly, efficiently. Pneumonia, severe, complicated by exposure, malnutrition, and what one young doctor delicately calls reduced will to live. They put Leon on oxygen, pump him full of antibiotics, set up 4 lines that snake across his arms like the cables in a recording studio. Cordelia sits beside his bed, holding his hand, watching the monitors track his failing systems in glowing green numbers. Outside the window, London celebrates Christmas, church bells ringing, families gathering, the annual fantasy of peace and goodwill. Inside, a king lies dying, his kingdom destroyed, his daughters either missing or actively hoping for his death. "I'm sorry I couldn't save it," Leon whispers, his voice barely audible beneath the oxygen mask. The label, the music. "I'm sorry, baby girl, you don't have to save anything," Cordelia says through tears. "Just stay with me. That's all I want. Just stay." But Leon's eyes are already distant, looking at something she can't see. Perhaps the past, when everything was possible and the future stretched ahead unlimited. Perhaps nothing at all. The monitor's beeping slows, becomes irregular, and Cordelia grips his hand tighter, trying to anchor him to life through sheer force of love. Leon King dies on December 27th, 1966, at 3:42 in the morning. The monitors flatline with a sound like sustained feedback, that electronic scream that means the music has stopped forever. Cordelia is holding his hand when it happens, has been holding it for hours, and she feels the exact moment he leaves, the subtle shift from presence to absence, from father to body. She doesn't scream or sob. She simply sits there, still holding his cooling hand, staring at his face. In death, the tension finally leaves him. He looks younger, almost peaceful, as if some terrible weight has finally been lifted. The silver hair, the weathered face, the hands that signed 1,000 contracts and built an empire from stubbornness and vision, all still, all silent. Harry and Mickey arrive as dawn breaks grey and cold over London. They find Cordelia still sitting vigil, and something in her expression tells them everything before words become necessary. Mickey, the comedian who always had a quip, has nothing to say. He simply weeps, openly and unashamed, for the friend he's lost and the world that's diminished by the loss. "He asked about you both," Cordelia says quietly. "Near the end, he wanted you to know he was grateful for staying, for everything." The funeral is small, almost secret. Word gets out, but Cordelia deliberately keeps it private. A handful of people in a crematorium in North London, no press, no industry spectacle. Harry, Mickey, Edwin, a few of the musicians from the squat who loved Leon for teaching them that music could matter more than money. The service is brief, secular, accompanied not by organ music, but by recordings, early Kingdom Records releases. The raw, vital sound of rock and roll when it was still dangerous and new. Gwendolyn doesn't attend. She's in New York, finalizing the dissolution of Kingdom Records' American operations, selling the pieces to CBS for millions. When told of her father's death, she sends flowers and a formal statement expressing her sorrow. The flowers are expensive, impersonal. The statement could have been written by a lawyer, which it probably was. Regan does come, appearing at the crematorium in black velvet and sunglasses, Marcus beside her like a bodyguard. She stands at the back, separate from the others, her face unreadable. When it's over, she approaches Cordelia in the parking lot, in the grey December light that makes everything look bleached and unreal. "I'm sorry," Regan says. The words sound genuine, but Cordelia has learned not to trust performance. "Are you sorry he's dead? Or sorry you didn't squeeze more from him before he died?" Regan flinches. "That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair." Cordelia's voice is flat, exhausted beyond anger. "You and Gwendolyn destroyed him. Systematically, deliberately destroyed him for profit. Don't come to his funeral and pretend you're mourning. You're celebrating. He destroyed himself," Regan says, her voice hardening. "He divided the empire. He exiled you. He made his choices, and we all paid the price. He made one mistake. One catastrophic mistake driven by vanity and exhaustion. You made 1,000 calculated choices driven by greed. There's a difference." Regan has no answer for that. She turns and walks back to her car, to Marcus and Belgravia and the wreckage of Kingdom records that she's still trying to salvage. She doesn't look back. The will is read the following week. Leon left almost nothing, having given away his empire. He died with only debts and worthless personal effects. But there's one asset nobody knew about, a storage unit in Stratford filled with master tapes. Not the commercial releases, but the original recordings, the raw sessions before they were mixed and polished. Decades of music in its purest form, belonging to no contract, owned by no corporation. Leon's personal archive, left entirely to Cordelia. He must have been saving them, Harry says, standing in the storage unit, surrounded by boxes of tapes, each carefully labeled in Leon's handwriting. All these years, keeping the originals separate from what Kingdom owned. Cordelia runs her fingers over the boxes, reading the labels. Blues sessions from 1958, rock recordings from 62, experimental sessions from 65, some featuring her own production work, a complete alternate history of Kingdom records. The version that existed before commercial demands shaped everything. This is his real legacy, she says quietly. Not the empire. This, the pure recordings, before money corrupted them. The music press writes Leon's obituary in contradictory terms. Visionary and cautionary tale. Pioneer and tragic figure. Some emphasize his early achievements. Others focus on his final fall. The industry moves on quickly. There are new bands to sign, new trends to exploit, new legends rising to replace the fallen. Within weeks, Leon King becomes history. Another story about the dangers of hubris and the price of mistakes. Kingdom Records officially dissolves in February of 1967. The assets are scattered catalog sold to CBS, studios bought by EMI, the Camden warehouse converted into luxury flats for young professionals who never know what music was made within those walls. Gwendolyn takes her millions and moves into corporate management, eventually becoming an executive at a television network. Regan remarries, moves to Los Angeles, becomes a film producer. They never speak to each other again. Edmund Gloucester is never found. Rumors place him in New York, in Los Angeles, in Mexico. He vanished with his stolen millions into the anonymous vastness of America. The bastard son who won by being willing to betray everyone. Edwin Gloucester and his father Edgar reconcile slowly, painfully. Edgar transfers what remains of his publishing interests to Edwin, then retires to Brighton, where he lives quietly, haunted by how easily he was manipulated into destroying what he loved. And Cordelia. She takes the master tapes and starts over. Not a commercial label, but an archive and production collective, dedicated to preserving and releasing music that matters regardless of market demands. She works from a small studio in Brixton, the same one where Harry was producing when Leon came looking for forgiveness, the place where everything almost got rebuilt. She never becomes famous, never wealthy, but musicians know about Hertha, daughter of Leon King, who understood what her father taught her and rejected what he became. Artists come to her when they want to make music that's true rather than profitable. The collective grows slowly, organically, built on the same principles that Leon used to build Kingdom Records before Empire corrupted vision. On quiet nights, when the last session has ended and the studio is empty, Cordelia sometimes plays the old master tapes. Her father's voice in the control room, talking to musicians, making suggestions, laughing at someone's joke. The ghost of Leon King, preserved in magnetic oxide, forever young and full of certainty that music could change the world. Outside, London continues its endless evolution. 1966 becomes 67, becomes 68. The music changes, the culture shifts, the the revolution everyone promised arrives in fragments and disappointments. But in a basement studio in Brixton, a woman preserves recordings of a time when anything seemed possible, when empires could be built from passion, before pride and division turned kingdoms into ruins. The tragedy is complete. The empire destroyed, the father dead, the daughters scattered. But the music remains, spinning on turntables and radiating from speakers, outliving everyone who made it and everyone who profited from it. The kingdom of sound endures, even after its king has fallen and its borders have dissolved. This is how legends end, not with triumph, but with the quiet persistence of those who remember what mattered before everything fell apart.